All right, today we are doing part 2 of our Dynasty rookie rankings for this 2023 draft class. This is an extremely stacked draft class, and they proved it at the Combine. Obviously, things have changed post-Combine, so we're going to look into all that has changed in our rankings and get into some of these second-round guys that you should be targeting as well as like the late first. I think we're still in the 112. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. We've got content like this, where we're covering the rookies in depth, covering their Combine results, covering their draft stock that they could potentially get, coming out all the time. So make sure you subscribe to the channel for that, and make sure you hit like on the video. It's easy, it's free, and it really helps us out, so we appreciate it. It helps the algorithm, if you know what I mean.
Algorithm.
Algorithm. All right, we did the first 3 tiers yesterday in our first video. Obviously, tier 1 was Bijan Robinson, sorry. Tier 2 was Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, and JSN. Tier 3 was Will Levis, Jahmyr Gibbs, Quentin Johnston, Jordan Addison, Zach Charbonnet, and Zay Flowers. So, extreme talent at the top of this draft class. If you haven't checked out that video, make sure you go check that out as well. And then we're going to get into tiers 4, 5, and 6 today. So there are still some guys here that we love that we are going to talk about. And this is why this is hilarious, because everybody got down on this draft class. I still think it's extremely stacked. Like, I still think there are a ton of good options.
There's never a question in my mind.
I don't think so either. I don't think so either. And we're going to start
had doubts.
We're going to start with Josh Downs, a guy you could be getting at the 112, 201 of these drafts. I mean, Josh Downs, I've said it from the beginning, he's just a safe prospect. He's going to be a good starter in the NFL. He came in, he ran a 4.48 40-yard dash, a 38-inch vertical is what he measured, and a 10.11 broad jump. So those are really good numbers for Josh Downs. And when you're looking at his RAS, it was a 7.79. He had really, really good scores, obviously, in vertical and broad jump. And then his speed score was also very good. Obviously, what's bringing him down is going to be his 5'9", 171 size. However, I don't think this is going to be a deal breaker for Josh Downs. I think he's going to be a reliable NFL contributor for a long time, and I think because of that, he'll be a good fantasy asset. I think the draft capital will help with that too. Yeah,
I completely agree. I'm starting to fall on the second round draft capital is really where I'm going to assume that Josh Downs go. He's been flirting with first round draft capital and a bunch of mocks, and I've just never really seen it. I wouldn't say there's risk with Downs, but I would say there's risk of ceiling with Downs. I don't think he has a high enough guaranteed ceiling in the NFL that someone's going to want to draft him in the first round. I could be totally wrong about that. That's just my personal opinion. I think he would do really well in an offense that already has a dominant receiver. And he could really feed off of that. They could really help each other. Again, those receiver duos, if he finds himself in the right situation, he could end up being a real nice producer right off the bat here.
Yeah. And then Michael Mayer is going to come in next, and you're going to see a lot of tight end in these rankings because it's one of the best tight end classes in recent memory. It really is. And Michael Mayer didn't really have a show-stopping combine like some of the other tight ends. You look at Washington, Laporta even, really good combines, as we'll see what their relative athletic scores were, but his was an 8.08. He's got that classic 6'4.5", 250 frame that we're looking for in a tight end. So obviously that's no issue at all. 33-inch vertical. I think I can't see what his broad jump is, but and then it's a 4.7 40-yard dash. So not show-stopping numbers for his size, but again, Michael Mayer from a production standpoint and efficiency standpoint in college was far and away the best tight end in this class. I mean, Jeremy did, I think, a deeper dive into that on Twitter in one of his threads, and it was pretty clear that Michael Mayer stood above the rest. So we're going to continue to ride what we think is the best tight end in this class in Michael Mayer. I'm not sure if you have any questions about Michael Mayer, but I don't think the compensation.
No, I don't really have many questions about any of these tight ends. A lot of our opinion on maybe why we don't have him ranked as high as some do in Dynasty is just our philosophy of the tight end position and the tight end landscape in Dynasty and in fantasy football. We just question, are any of these tight ends capable of producing at an elite level, and can they do that within the next year or two? I think the talent level is enough for a lot of these guys that they could. However, it still is a toss-up, and for any of them to have really respectable dynasty draft capital and rookie drafts, we think they all need to go first round. Yeah, Michael Mayer needs to go early to mid first round.
There are going to be tight ends that go in the first round.
Yeah,
so it's which ones?
And they all will maintain their value. I mean, seeing how many did and how many rose in value last year, and they didn't even have good draft capital. Like, all these guys in 2023 will have better draft capital than the Chig Okonkwo's, the Dulciches, the McBrides, and the Bellingers. And so I really don't see a scenario where you're losing any sort of market value with these guys after year one.
Yeah, absolutely. in my opinion, Jalin Hyatt, who's the last guy in this tier, I think he had a really good combine. Yeah. I don't know why people kind of
4.4 flat.
And have kind of taken the position that he kind of underwhelmed. I mean, not only a 4.4 flat, but a 40-inch vertical. I mean, the dude. I mean, the only question again is going to be 6 foot 175. I'm not super worried about that. Like, look, if he's going to, it's just going to depend on his draft capital. And obviously that's with all of these guys, but Jalin Hyatt's a guy that is a threat to go in the first round. I mean, he's a guy that I think NFL teams are looking at and they're valuing. So if Jalin Hyatt gets that draft capital, he could go higher than this. I mean, I think he had a good combine. Obviously, in terms of, his game, he's obviously more down the field. Speedster dude. I'm assuming you're not worried about his size either, though. Like, I mean,
no,
it's not going to affect the way he plays.
I'm sorry. I just the more we worry about the size of wide receivers that aren't like insanely small, the less I care. Especially with the success rate of wide receivers that get the draft capital to be respectable receivers in the NFL, and then you short them for your size, and then they go and produce at a high level. Devontae Smith, to me, it's just becoming more and more irrelevant, honestly, especially when they get the draft capital.
Absolutely. All right, moving down to the next tier, we're going to have Hendon Hooker. So our next quarterback is going to be two tiers after Levis, 3 tiers after the rest of the guys. But Hendon Hooker's still a guy, although he's hurt and he did not test, so we really don't have anything new to say about him. Still a guy that's probably going to get second-round capital. Maybe. I think he's going to. And with that, I mean, in Superflex League, he absolutely deserves to go within the top 14 picks. So with Hendon Hooker, I mean, again, we saw what he was capable of last year, but I mean, I think there's a lot in his game that translates well to the NFL. I think a team's going to be willing to take a shot on him.
Yeah, I think, from the beginning, he hasn't been branded as one of the top 4, elite level QBs, but he has been known as probably, aside from Stroud, maybe having the highest floor. His ceiling could be extremely limited. Obviously, he's going to be 25 years old going into this season off of an ACL injury. But, he's not supposed, we don't expect him to be a crazy mobile, rushing QB. He's definitely going to be a guy that sits back in the pocket, is a good passer, will take shots downfield. He's got a good arm. Obviously was there with, I think, Hyatt and Tillman. With him, I think he goes second round. I wouldn't say he's a lock, but I would anticipate him going second round, and he may not even start right off the bat. He may not be in a starting position immediately, but with a team like the Seahawks, who just re-signed Geno Smith to a 3-year deal, and I don't know the breakdown of that deal yet. I don't think that's all come out yet. But that's definitely a QB that they could target, a younger guy who can sort of replace Geno in a couple years once, if he falls off, and we can really see is definitely worth taking a shot on here in the early to mid second rounds of Dynasty startups.
Absolutely.
Or Dynasty rookie drafts.
Yeah. Devon Achane is going to be next in this tier. He had a fine combine too.
He was as fast as I expected.
Yeah, his relative athletic score was 6.84, so nothing really to write home about. Obviously, that's going to be brought down by his height and weight, and then his vertical. At 5'8" and 188. That was always going to be the thing with Achane. I don't think that should have surprised anybody. I don't think it should make anybody less high on Achane because we always knew he was going to be that size. The 33-inch vertical obviously doesn't help a lot, but I mean, his elite trait is his speed, and we knew that. Now, granted, there were people saying that he could come in and threaten the 40-yard dash record, and that was not. He was not even close. Was not threatening. Yeah, not close. He was at a 4.32, which is still really, really good. Obviously, that is elite speed, so it's nothing to short. However, with Devon Achane, you have to wonder with the size and, with his only elite trait being his speed. I think he's good in the receiving game. You obviously saw he went through some of the receiver drills, which to me was a really good thing. I mean, that's exactly what you want. But you got to wonder what his ceiling is in the NFL. He's not a 3-down back. I mean, he's not going to fit that mold of somebody who's in, tell me your thoughts on Achane, because for me it didn't really change anything, but I think it kind of reaffirmed what I had already thought about him. Really good at a lot of things and an elite speed, but what's his fantasy?
If I end up having to take a big L on Devon Achane and he ends up being one of the most elite running backs in the NFL and in Dynasty, then I will happily take that L, because I just think there are too many concerns right now when it comes to the workload that he can take, what offense he's going to end up being in, and how are they going to utilize them. I do think that there was a ton to learn from the James Cook experiment last year. I don't like comparing every single scenario to that, but I think it's definitely relevant, especially with these guys that have lower BMI, but are speedy and have really good receiving upside. The question is, does he have elite receiving upside? I think that that has yet to be seen.
I don't think he does.
And for him, I mean,
and Gibbs does.
Yeah, and for them to produce at a super high level, I mean, I'm talking like he needs to be Saquon Barkley-esque in terms of receiving. He needs to be Austin Eckler-esque in receiving because he's not going to get the consistent carries on the ground to be a crazy rushing threat in the NFL or for your fantasy team.
Yeah, and he's definitely, and I'm essentially talking at Jeremy, he's definitely going to be a good asset for an NFL team.
I think he could. I mean, if he's put in the right position, he could be electric and an absolute.
We want
game
the Colts
changer.
to draft him.
Yeah,
I mean, he would be great.
He's been mocked to the Colts a lot.
I love it.
And if he went to the Colts, I would be ecstatic about that because he's a better version of Nyheim Hines, in my opinion.
But we're not. We're playing fantasy, so I mean, we're not professional NFL scouts, and that goes without saying in itself. Yeah. But with Devon Achane, my main concern, this is when I'm looking at where I'm ranking him, I'm like, well, how many fantasy points is he going to score? And I don't think that's going to be a crazy amount. So that's why we have him ranked here.
Yeah, he could have some weeks where he goes off.
Yeah.
For sure. But I mean, I would anticipate some weeks where he's just not utilized as much in the game plan.
Marvin Mims is going to be next on our list here. And Marvin Mims
had my guy.
I've got to give it to him. Because,
yes.
But to be fair, my only gripe with Marvin Mims,
there's no L to be taken until he's actually drafted.
But there's not really an L to be taken anyways. My only concern with him was his height. Like, my main thing was his size. because I haven't really watched a ton of his film. You guys have watched so much of it. I've always just let you guys cover him on the show. But looking at where, I mean, he came in at 5'10", dang near 5'11", 183. Jeez. So the size is fine. That's fine. His vertical, 39.5 inches. His 40, 4.38. He's a guy that can do some damage in the NFL.
Yeah.
He's a guy that can climb up these draft boards, honestly.
He has more, I mean, he's heavier than Jalin Hyatt, and Jalin Hyatt is a couple tiers above him right now. This is one of these guys where I could see, and I would argue for this. I'm going to keep him down just so I don't get too excited about Marvin Mims and become irrational about it. But that's smart, dude. I have compared him in downs, and Simon has too. We've kind of put them back to back. We've been a little lower on downs than Avery has, and a lot higher on Mims than he has. And again, that's just going to be personal opinion. I think Mims, at this point, I'm going to call my shot. I think Mims is an easy second round pick this year. And I think he and Downs could end up a lot closer. I think that gap could be a lot closer come Dynasty rookie drafts after the NFL rookie drafts. And that's just something that I'm really excited to see. I'm really excited to see his landing spot also.
And they're only 4 spots apart in our rankings now. So
but
he's jumped up considerably.
We currently have Mims a tier below him, which I think we've done consistently.
Yeah. His relative athletic score was...
He's in a position for a stock to go up big time.
9.13, so that's obviously very good. And then Cedric Tillman is also going to be on this list here, and his relative athletic score was a 9.56. I mean, obviously he's got the size. He came in at 6'3", 215 pounds, so that is really, really nice NFL size. His vertical was 37 inches. Guys, that's awesome. And coming out of 4.54 is fine for his size.
That's probably why we have Mims over him right now. Is I think one of the biggest, most glaring things is his Cedric Tillman size compared to Marvin Mims is, relatively the same. There's a bit of a gap, but I mean, 4.38 compared to 4.54 is a lot. So that's why Tillman will be just behind Mims right now. Again, that could change, but we like Tillman. I'd say I like Tillman just as much as I do Mims as a prospect and what he could do in his upside in the NFL.
I do too. All right, and then to our last tier here, obviously you can see we've got a bunch of tight ends and Sean Tucker. So moving down the list here.
and Sean Tucker.
Yeah, and Sean Tucker. No, not that Sean Tucker's not exciting, but he's just kind of a question mark for us at this point. So Dalton Kincaid, obviously he didn't really do anything at the combine, but he's projected in a lot of mocks to go in the first round. If he goes in the first round of the NFL draft, he belongs here. Luke Musgrave. If Luke Musgrave goes in the first round of the NFL draft, he absolutely deserves to be here. I mean, again, I think this is an underrated tight end class in terms of what these tight ends were able to do. Looking at Luke Musgrave specifically at the combine, relative athletic score of 9.94 out of 10. Guys.
Wow.
6'5", 250. So he's got that size. 36-inch vertical and a 4.6 140
for a tight end.
With that skill, with that size, guys,
very good.
The class is stacked. And Luke Musgrave, I mean, he is somebody that I think there are a lot of teams that are eyeing him in the later part of the first round. And I think that's going to be the case with a couple of these guys as well. But talk to me a little bit about Sam Laporta. Obviously, he's coming from tight end U and coming from, I mean, I would call it tight end U, coming from Iowa. I saw a mock today where he was matched up with George Kittle and drafted in San Francisco. But obviously somebody who did really well at the combine as well with a 9.26 relative athletic score there.
Yeah, I think this guy, again, the draft capital is going to have to speak for a lot of these people. I think at the combine he weighed out as he was 242 and 6'4". So again, another one of those specimens, a really good size for a tight end that can have success.
It's a little bit smaller than the other guys.
Yeah, definitely smaller. Yeah. But you know, him coming out of Iowa, does that boost his draft stock a little bit? Maybe. It honestly doesn't make a difference for me. I am not a believer in judging a player based off of
scouting,
where they come from. I think that's a massive, massive fallacy. But with Laporta, I mean, as a tight end talent, his production last year, 58 receptions, 656 receiving yards. His target share was 27% in that offense.
Good in the Big Ten.
Yeah, very, very good in the Big Ten with a lot of talent there. I definitely prefer Musgrave and Kincaid over him at the moment. Could that change? Sure. I think they all have just as good a chance to go in the first round, though. I mean, for me, it's just a toss-up at this point. I can't really speak much on the differences between the four of them right now.
And that's why they're all on the same tier.
That's why they're all on the same tier.
He had a 35-inch vertical, 10.3 broad jump, and a 4.5 940. Not to mention the shuttle and the three-cone, really good. So he's got nice agility, too. It's good that he tested everything, and his RAS reflects that. I think, again, it's going to be which of these tight ends goes, in
and right now I definitely
in the first round.
Yeah, I like that we have Kincaid first off the board personally, just because I've seen the most of him in college. Obviously, coming out of Utah, and I saw a decent amount of their games and a decent amount of his play, and it was very impressive to me, specifically in the passing game, which is what we care about in fantasy and in Dynasty. Darnell Washington, obviously, everyone has seen plenty of, and I think he athletically is maybe currently in my eyes not as impressive as Kincaid, but
I mean, he ran a 4.64 as a 6'7" dude, though.
Yeah, I know.
To me, I think he's more athletic than I thought he was, because I honestly didn't expect him to run a 4.64, but I mean, even his shuttle was nice. He, at 31-inch vertical is not fantastic, but again, the dude is a giant. I mean, he's 265 pounds still, but also a 10'2" broad jump. Like, I mean, it's a 9.85 relative athletic score. So you see the RSs for the tight ends in this class are just off the charts. They're so athletic. They've got the size, and they could potentially get the draft capital. I mean, heck, if you've got these mid-late seconds in your dynasty drafts and these tight ends are available and they get the draft capital, you're taking those all day. You're taking them all day. And while we're not big advocates for spending first-round starter picks on these guys, that's why we have the tight ends in this back portion of this. I mean, man, a deep tight end class that I'm telling you people are sleeping on. People like last year's, wait until you see this year's. We'll finish up here with Sean Tucker. And honestly, honorable mention here could be, somebody like Kayshon Boutte.
We might get a lot of crap for not having Boutte here.
Let's wait. If he gets some draft capital, we're definitely wrong. But
yeah, the combine was so out of this world atrocious that I don't think we need any reason to have him in our tier list right now.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean he's going to fall to the 5th or 6th round. I think he goes probably 3rd round, maybe at the earliest is my guess. But again, I mean, good gracious, with all the character concerns, and then you see this, it's like, what were you doing from the end of the season to now? You had like 3 months to get ready for the combine, and you put up that performance. I don't know. Maybe there's something we're missing. Maybe he was injured or struggling with something that we don't know about. But good gosh, there to me, there's just no excuse.
So he'd probably be on honorable mention here, maybe Tank Bigsby. But Sean Tucker, obviously rounding up our rankings here for now. Really, the only thing we got from him at the combine is 5'9", 207, which is a good size for being that's essentially Aaron Jones size. I think Aaron Jones is 5'9", 210, so that's fine. What I don't understand, and kind of a conversation I was having with Jeremy today, is why did he not test? I mean, the dude is a track athlete. Is because he's not as fast as people think he is, or doesn't have as much burst as people think he does at that size?
Is he waiting for his pro day?
Yeah, but why did he not run in the combine though? Like,
I don't know.
Everybody else did. Like, I don't understand. So with Sean Tucker, there have been some question marks. Obviously, not the most efficient back in this draft as well. And I think obviously his year this year was not as good as his 2021 year as well. So this is a guy that I was really high on earlier in this process, and essentially I've just kind of inched away from it because there are so many question marks. I don't know why he didn't run the 40. We put him on here because we still like him. We still like the receiving upside, especially that he brings, that he can offer potentially. But right now, I mean, this is about the best I can do with them. I hope there are questions answered with Sean Tucker, but I don't. You have anything to add?
Yeah,
about Tucker?
No, we're still hopeful. I'm still hopeful with Zach Evans too. I mean, we've consistently had Evans and Tucker going back to back. I mean, even as early as the late first round for both of them, way early in the process back in January, and now they're just almost off the board. And Zach Evans obviously is dealing with a bunch of injury as well right now, still recovering. So he just hasn't done anything yet for us to move him up. So he's kind of just fallen down.
Oh yeah, Zach Evans isn't on here either.
Yeah, look for Evans and Tucker to maybe make a bit of a comeback here. But I mean, same as you, I'm kind of worried, and I'm not willing to take any shots on them right now.
These guys, like these tight ends, are all up here because they're threatening to get first round NFL draft capital. And quite honestly, Zach Evans, Sean Tucker, Kayshon Boutte, they're not threatening. I mean, right now, I wouldn't say they're threatening second round draft capital. Maybe not even third. So we're gonna we're just essentially what we're doing is predicting draft capital. And look, this is not a for sure list. Obviously, things are going to change, and everything's going to change come draft night. But we are literally two dudes who sat around and chatted about this, and then threw together this list to put on Dynasty Domain. Which we obviously work hard on that, but we are not claiming to know everything. And so if you think we should have included one of those guys, tell us in the comments. Don't be a meathead about it, but tell us in the comments. Like,
yeah, we'd love to hear your takes on them.
We like to hear who you guys are high on or less high on after the combine. Guys, you think we should have excluded as well.
And
we don't know everything, and we're definitely not professional scouts, so we're just kind of doing our analysis after the combine. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't. If you're watching this video, that is the best and easiest way to support us. The second one is to like the video, so make sure you hit that thumbs up. We really appreciate that as well. Our locals is linked in the description. Make sure you go there for all of our exclusive content, including access to our Discord, our listener leagues, our rankings, ADP data, and everything else. So make sure you check that out as well. As always, we really appreciate you watching. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you later.